Hello, and welcome to another episode of OpenNMS 101. My name is Taras Balog. I'm one of the maintainers of the OpenNMS project, and in this lesson, we're going to get started with using OpenNMS. I'm assuming by this point you have actually installed OpenNMS using one of the other videos or the documentation, and so you should be looking at a screen that looks something like this. Now this is from Meridian. We're actually going to be playing with Horizon through a lot of this, but there's no real material differences between the two screens. Now, the OpenNMS GUI, I like it. I mean, I've been using it for over a decade, so I'm pretty comfortable with navigating through it, but it hasn't changed considerably much in the last 15 years. A part of that reason is the commercial side of OpenNMS, the OpenNMS group. We often have customers who will pay us to make OpenNMS more powerful, but we rarely have customers who will come through and pay us to make it easier to use. In fact, a lot of our bigger customers rely on the REST interface to do a lot of work in OpenNMS, and they only come to the GUI when there is something wrong that they need to diagnose. So what we're going to do here, though, is give you a little overview. And since when I usually teach the class, I put up slides, but since we're doing the magic to video, I'm just going to switch over here to a live instance of OpenNMS. Now you can see this has the green color scheme, which is our Horizon color scheme, and there are a few slight differences. But mainly, this is the page. Once you log in, and again, our top secret login is admin, and it's on port 8980 of your OpenNMS server. Assuming you can reach it through the firewall, you should be able to get to port 8980, and you will log in with admin, you'll see this page. Now here on the left side of the screen are 4 sections that is kind of like your to-do list. So nodes with pending problems, or nodes with alarms, nodes with outages, or nodes that have detected that a particular service on those nodes is down. We have a business service and an application section. These are things you can create within OpenNMS, so you can, instead of looking at particular devices, which is kind of the focus of the first two, you can actually look at things like business services and applications that you are providing on the network. Now this middle section here is called the real-time console, but it's more appropriately should be called the near-time console. It gets updated about every 2 minutes. So if I mouse over this, you can see the little pop-up says updated Friday, January 13th at 11:16. And you can see up here that the time is 11:17. And so there will be a little bit of a difference while this gets updated. But basically, this is based upon outages, and it can tell you can group things together and can see the overall status of the network. It gives you kind of a visual indication. We set up these default categories to begin with, but I've been in places where we've set up categories based upon vendor, we've set up categories based upon location, etc. And in a future lesson, we'll cover that. Now here on the right side of the screen, you have a notifications window. We will be talking in a couple of lessons about notifications, and this gives you kind of a glance. There's a quick search for resource graphs. So you can quickly bring up any of the performance graphs that we're creating. We have this thing called KSC reports, which stands for Key S&P Custom Reports. Actually, this is one of the first features ever contributed by an outside party, and the person worked at Kennedy Space Center. So all the code had KSC this, KSC that, and I said, hey, can I call this thing Kennedy Space Center Reports? And they said no. So we came up with the kind of kludgy acronym, Key S&P Custom Reports, and this allows you to group separate performance reports onto one page to make it very, very easy to get there. And again, we'll have a lesson on that as well, and then there's a little quick search button. Now there's lots of little menu items here. You can do searches, you can look at nodes, assets, you can look at status, you can generate reports. We have dashboards, maps. Through the future lessons, we are going to cover most of this. What I want to focus right now is on this admin menu. As you can see, if you click on the admin menu, there's this menu called Configure OpenNMS. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. This is only available to admin level users. And as you can see, there's quite a bit of options here. I showed you on the installation video, one of the things is this menu item at the very bottom called Data Choices. This does this is how you change whether you opt in or opt out to our statistics. So you've probably seen that before if you've watched those other videos. But this is basic administrative actions. Now, in the bad old days, you did almost all configuration through the command line. You would hand edit XML files. As OpenNMS has grown, you can do a lot more through the web user interface, and we're going to be spending a lot of time here. But remember, this is only available to admin level users. Now, since admin is kind of a bad thing to have, the first thing we could do is go and change the admin password. So that's fairly easy. You go up under admin, hit change password, bring you up to this user account self-service menu, hit change password again, and I'm going to change the password to something totally not admin. So I have to add my current password, admin, new password, confirm, and I hit submit. And that will have changed my password. So now no one can log in as admin unless they know the password. Now, I strongly recommend that no one log in as the admin user. When we talk about notifications in a couple of lessons, when we send a notification, it gets sent to a particular user. That user has the ability to acknowledge the notification, and their username will be associated with it. Now, if everyone's using the admin account and you have a whole bunch of people acknowledging notifications as admin, well, it's hard to audit. You don't really know who did it. So I strongly recommend that you create individual users and let them log in as themselves. And for those users who need admin access, you can grant it to them. So we're going to do that right now. So if I go to admin in the configuration menu, you'll see configure users, groups, and on-call roles. It's the second piece right here. I'm going to click on that. Then I'm going to click on configure users. And here are my users. I only have the admin user by default. We strongly recommend you don't delete the admin user. It is referenced in a number of places. I do believe if you really wanted to, you could get rid of admin and it wouldn't hurt anything. It's just, I would just change the password to something that no one can easily remember, don't tell anybody, and have everyone log in as themselves. So I'm going to click on this button that says Add New User, and it'll bring up this dialog. I'm going to put my name. I like using the same username that I log into everything else, which happens to be Taurus, and I will put in a password, and I will confirm the password, and I will hit OK. Now this will bring me to a different screen, and I haven't created the user yet. I want to stress, I have to go down to the very bottom here and click Finish. Once I've clicked Finish, then the user will be added. So don't navigate away from this page before you've gone ahead and clicked Finish. So I'm going to put my name in here, Taurus Balog, put some kind of comment. And now this rest of this information is used for various notification services within OpenNMS. For the purposes of this training, I'm going to put root at localhost as my email address. This will send mail to the OpenNMS server itself, and I can use command line mail to look at it. If your OpenNMS server is already set up to process mail properly, you could put whatever your email address, your real email address is here. But for the purposes of the class, I'm just going to leave root at localhost. Now, email would be an individual's email. Pager email would be an email address that sends an SMS or a text. So if I go to, let's say if I did 919-555-1212 at txt.att.net, if I actually put my real phone number in here and I send an email to my phone number at txt.att.net, I would end up getting an SMS message, a text message to my phone. Now that works great unless the network's down. And so you may want to set up some sort of external paging system. We have a ton of other services that we will talk about. You can send an XMPP message, which is kind of like a Jabber message, a pop-up. You can microblog. You can actually tweet your you're set up. We have an integration with Asterisk, which is an OpenNMS PBS, where OpenNMS will phone you and actually call your phone and then speak the notification. So there's lots and lots of different ways to integrate here, and we're going to actually use that quite a bit in the 4th chapter, which is where we talk about notifications. And then at the very bottom here is this thing called duty schedules. By default, when you get a notification, it will get sent to you, period. You're on duty basically 24 hours, 24/7. But I could add a schedule and then say, well, I only want to be notified Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 0900 hours to 1700 hours, which is 9 to 5. And if I do that, I will only get notified during those times. I'm going to go ahead and delete that because I want to get notified all the time, but just letting you know that's there. So I've added my name, little comment, email, root at localhost, and I'm going to go ahead and finish this now. And so now I have 2 users. Now we're going to do a little exercise. So let me go back to my slides. So we're gonna create our new user. Now we're going to add the user. The next step is we're going to add the user to the admin group. Now this does not make the user an admin. It just so happens that if I go to users and groups and configure groups, you'll see that we have this admin group. And it just so happens that the default notifications and everything set up with OpenNMS is to email the admin group. So I want to add myself to this group so I get them. It does not make me an admin. I could have named this group the FooBar group and it would have worked just fine. But we've got this group, it's called the admin group now. So I'm going to click on me and add me here. Now you notice this move up, move down section. This move up, move down section is the order in which people get notified. Now by default, if I send a notification to a group, everyone in the group gets notified. But it is possible for me to put in a delay. And if I have like a 1-minute delay or a 10-minute delay, that means I'm going to contact the first member of the group, I'm going to wait, then the second member, wait, third member, wait, etc. I want to make sure I'm always last because I want someone else to get the notice before I do, because that's just the way I am. Now this over here in the corner is these categories. We will talk about these later. Categories are a way of grouping different devices. And the OpenNMS GUI does have a basic access control list feature, which will allow you to display just the devices that are interested into, just the devices that are interesting to a particular person. And so we have, as you can see here, we have router switches servers. So if I had a network guy who was only interested in the routers group, I could add this group to his overall group. And if that happens, then he would only see devices that were in the routers category. Now, admin users get to see everything. And so I want to make myself an admin user, so I'm not going to deal with this right now. And notice that groups themselves have duty schedules. And we're going to talk about duty schedules in groups in the notification section. They behave slightly differently than for individual users. But so you can have duty schedules for users, you can have duty schedules for groups. Anyway, the purpose of this screen is to move my newly created Taurus user into the admin group, and I'll hit finish. Now, getting back to our exercise, log out. So we'll go ahead and log out. Admin log out. And I'm going to log in as me. Now I'm logged in, I'm me, I'm in the admin group, but if I go to the menu item over here, you'll see that I don't have a configuration menu. I can go to the help support page, I can change my password, I can log out. That's all I can do because I am not yet an admin user. So let's talk about what it takes to be an admin user. I'm going to go and edit a file on the system. So this is my this is a shell to my VM running OpenNMS for training, and I'm going to switch to opt OpenNMS etc. This is running on CentOS 7. If you were on Debian, you would want user share OpenNMS etc, which is a symlink to etc/OpenNMS. So I'm going to go here, and you can see there's tons of configuration files. There are two types. There's XML files and there's property files. In this case, I'm going to edit a properties file called magicusers.properties. Let me get out of here and we shall clear it so that everyone can see. So we're going to edit magicusers.properties. Now I like Vim because it does syntax checking. I need to set this up to use a dark background, so I'm going to do set background equal to dark, just so we can see. And I'm going to go down here to this section. This section controls what we call roles. And there are a number of different roles within the user interface, in the application itself. And what we want to do is we want to associate our new user, in my case, the new Taurus user, with an administrator. So I'm going to go and find this section here that says role.admin.users. And you'll see currently right now, go down here, it's this section right here. You'll see that it only has admin in it. And I'm going to go and add my username. And that's all it takes. Once I put my username here, I'll be an admin user. And we'll talk about some of these other different things in the future. One of the things I like is there's a read-only user, which is kind of the pointy-haired boss user. If you have someone who needs access to OpenNMS, but you don't necessarily want them acknowledging alarms or notifications or anything like that, you just kind of want them to be able to see the status of the network and to generate reports, you can make them a read-only user by putting their username here, and it will prevent them from doing those things. So let me save that file, switch back over to my web UI, and I'm going to go ahead and log out. Oh, come on, log out. And I'll log back in. And now when I log in, you'll see I have configure OpenNMS. I have admin access to the GUI. And that's it. So that's getting started with OpenNMS. So you should now have OpenNMS installed. You should have access to the GUI. And you should have an admin user under your name that's not admin. And so tell people to totally forget the admin user password. Now get back into the slides just to kind of review what we did. First of all, we need to be aware of where the OpenNMS files are located. Binary files are in the opt OpenNMS bin directory. Remember, if you're on a Debian-based distro, you want to substitute opt for user share. So it'll be user share OpenNMS bin instead of opt OpenNMS bin. We run a few files in bin, but we don't spend much time there. We do spend a lot of time in the etc directory, which is where the configuration files live. The Jetty web app subdirectory is where the web server is. It's the root of the web server. The lib directory contains all the jar files, the compiled libraries from Java. The share directory is where reports are generated, and there's all of the performance data is stored there. And then finally, the logs directory is where the log files are stored. Two types of files. There are XML files. XML files are very much like HTML. It's a markup language. I don't know if you guys remember, but let's go ahead and let me just look at. Let me just edit foo.html. And again, I'm going to do that whole set background equals dark. So if you've ever written your own web page, you've probably done something like, okay, so you start out with an HTML tag, and then you might have a title. And you go, this is my title. And you end it with these are all called tags. So this is an HTML tag, this is a title tag, and this is a closing tag. It's basically the same tag, but with a slash in front of it. And that tells you that's the end of this markup. And then I might have a body tag. I should probably start like indenting this and put body, tabs versus spaces. I'll let you guys deal with that. And then I might have a paragraph, this is my first paragraph, and then I might close it, and then I might close the body tag, and then I might close the HTML tag. And that right there is a basic HTML page. I've created a simple HTML page. Notice that these things have to match. If I have an HTML tag, I have to have a closing HTML tag, etc. XML is very, very similar to this, but instead of being a standard like HTML, XML lets you make up your own markup structure. And so we will end up going through a lot of that moving forward. Now the properties files are variable equals value, and it's just text. So you have a variable name that won't have any spaces, an equal sign, and then you can have anything. You can have spaces. It's delimited by character term. So if you need to span multiple lines, you want to put a line continuation character at the end of it. Again, this will become clearer as we move forward, but I did want to tell you that the two basic types of configuration files we're going to deal with are XML files, where the syntax is very important, and properties files, where the syntax is a little looser. The downside is it's a lot harder to check for errors in properties files than XML files. Now we added a user. We went to our admin, users, and groups. I added my Taurus user. I set up my name and a comment. I set my email for the purposes of training to be root@localhost. Of course, this is where you'd want to put a real email address. You have duty schedules. Duty schedules can overlap. In this case, we have the 9 to 5, the 7 to 7 duty schedules. The first one, Monday through Friday, but then I added a second one, which went from 0 to 23:59, and made that 7 days. That's as if I had no duty schedule at all, because everything will match that. In the old days, this was one way we'd manage on call. So basically, what would happen would be the on-call guy. Everyone would be on call from 7 to 7, so they'd have this duty schedule. But the on-call guy would be 24 hours, so the manager would come in, add this duty schedule on Monday, and then the next Monday they would delete it and add it to another person. Remember to click finish. Again, you go in, you once that dialog closes, it seems intuitive that you're done, but you're not. Until you click finish, you will not create your user. Now we added our user to our group, so we went in, clicked on users and groups. We edited the admin group. We moved me into the admin group. We talked a bit about categories. You can assign, if you want to use ACLs, you need to assign devices to categories, and then assign categories to groups. And that will limit what users in those groups can see. Groups have duty schedules as well. And we talked about the magic users.properties file. Anyway, that is it for this lesson of OpenNMS 101. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about events. So we're going to actually start doing stuff. But feel free to poke around in the web UI and play with it. Have fun. I mean, I'm a network management geek, so I really enjoy doing stuff like this. So I hope you are too. Feel free to poke around, and I look forward to seeing you next time.